This one is going to be hard to make. Not because I don't think that it couldn't happen. I mean, there is an obvious way that it could. I just don't know if I want it to happen. Within the Filoniverse, there needs to be a main villain. Someone who wields a lightsaber and is capable of using the Force. Someone who can fight against our heroes alongside Grand Admiral Thrawn and would be able to handle people like Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano. Because, I mean, if Thrawn went up against them, I mean, in hand-to-hand combat, I know he's trained and everything like that, but like without a weapon or anything like that, he would die pretty quickly because he doesn't have the Force or a lightsaber. Anyway, but that someone, that other villain, could very well be Ezra Bridger. And we will be getting into how this could happen and how it would affect the Filoniverse and Star Wars as a whole moving forward, you know, if it does happen. But before we get started, as always, be sure to like the video and subscribe for more Star Wars content. Now, let's get into today's video. So, within the Filoniverse, the shows that are being headed up by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, they are telling the story that will bridge the gap between the sequel trilogy and original trilogy, and will hopefully repair some of the damage that has been done to the fandom by the most recent Star Wars movies. Hopefully the Filoniverse will be able to bring us all back together. And the story that I think is going to be told is going to closely resemble or follow that of the Thrawn trilogy that we learn about in Legends. And within that story, there is a character named Joruus C'baoth, who is a clone of a fallen Jedi Master who turned to the dark side. Basically, he serves alongside Grand Admiral Thrawn as they attack the New Republic. He's obsessed with Luke and Leia, and he wants to train Leia's kids. There is a whole story there, and if you guys want all the details, I recommend reading the Legends Thrawn trilogy, you know, the one that starts with Heir to the Empire. It is super good. Or check out Star Wars Theory's video on it. I mean, he did a great job explaining everything that happened, and it's a really good video, so go give it a watch. Anyway, so I am thinking that Ezra is going to fill the shoes of this dark Jedi character within the Filoniverse. Of course, they are not going to follow the story exactly, but they have taken elements from this story before. I mean, they are bringing back Thrawn for Ahsoka, and I feel like he will be the overarching villain for all the shows. And Ezra would be an already established character that can join him in his conquest of the New Republic. So I mean, yeah, Ezra could be a villain. And of course, I know that Ezra will probably never fall to the dark side, at least completely, but never say never, you know, maybe he's just kind of neutral right now and he thinks that the Republic failed, I don't know. But there is something that makes me think that this is even remotely possible. You know, when Ezra was in Rebels, he flirted with the dark side. We've seen him flirt with the dark before.
They never would have succeeded without me. Don't they know that?
Your anger gives you strength, gives you focus. You can see things clearly your friends cannot. Now, what else do you desire?
They can't see. If they can't see, I must become stronger, more powerful.
You know, if we look back at it, you know, especially during that time where Ezra was with Maul in the Sith holocron, I mean, he was getting close, and he was feeling the pull of the dark side. And just like any young and powerful Jedi, instead of kind of turning away from it, he moved toward it. And now that he hasn't been seen since him and Thrawn disappeared into the unknown regions at the end of Rebels, he could honestly be up to anything. For all we know, he could be dead, or he could be alive and he could be on the light side and still fighting against Thrawn and keeping him at bay, or he could have fallen to the dark side. You know, we don't really know. However, right now I am theorizing that Ezra is going to have fallen to the dark side of the Force. That he has encountered something or someone that has finally pulled him all the way into the dark. Maybe he had a run-in with the spirit of the now dead Emperor Palpatine. I mean, we don't know exactly how Palpatine came back.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Dark science. Cloning. Secrets only the Sith knew.
But his spirit lingered long enough to return and inherit the clone vessels prepared for him, you know, sometime before Episode 7, which, by the way, I think The Mandalorian is going to get into all of that. But maybe Ezra could be one of these very early vessels. You know, maybe Palpatine's spirit latched onto him somehow, and, you know, that was the only way that Palpatine could, you know, remain alive. Is he needed a living, capable, force, powerful, you know, being, and it just so happened to land on Ezra Bridger. Maybe Ezra encountered the Dark Lord and is somehow keeping him trapped inside himself, you know, like kind of containing that darkness and preventing him from doing everything that he would want to do, everything that Palpatine would want to do, I mean. Like Ezra, this beacon of light, sacrificed his own soul and his own free will in some cases in order to prevent Palpatine from coming back or returning to an even stronger vessel. And even though Ezra is, falling further into darkness, he is constantly struggling, with inside himself to keep Palpatine at bay. And we could see some signs of this within the shows, as we explore more of his character. Like Ezra would have, dual personalities. One that is actually him on the light side of the Force and, trying to do good, trying to keep Palpatine back from, taking control over him. And then the other, which is, obviously heavily influenced by Palpatine and is on the dark side. This could be the way that Palpatine is still controlling his empire and organizing things on Exegol and throughout the galaxy. That through Ezra, he is telling people like Moff Gideon, for example, what to do. I mean, this could be the reason why they are creating vessels for him to come back to. Like we saw already in The Mandalorian, how they created, or they were, trying to create something or some vessel using Grogu's blood. I think that Palpatine, if this is true, I think that Palpatine would obviously be struggling with inside Ezra to actually take full control of the body. And so because of this, he is pushing for the Empire to create something more stable. Like Supreme Leader Snoke, perhaps, or, maybe the broken clone that was in The Rise of Skywalker that Palpatine inherited. That he's really trying to get them to create that so that he can leave Ezra and have full control over, his physical body that he now possesses. Either way, this means that while Palpatine is possessing Ezra, he is dark. I mean, this would be terrible to see, of course, but the fact that it could be Palpatine possessing him would make Ezra kind of like a martyr hero type, fighting the good fight and literally sacrificing everything that he is to keep evil at bay. Or it could just, go the other way and Ezra would just become, totally dark on his own and just be a, just kind of a dark Jedi antagonist type deal. Not to mention how Ahsoka would react seeing her good friend Ezra Bridger being consumed by the dark side. I mean, she saw it with Anakin, now she's seeing it with Ezra. She went through it herself, kind of, but I don't think she remembers it, on Mortis, but whatever. And especially if Sabine Wren is with her. I mean, geez. Talk about some emotional, heartbreak right there if we ever saw that go down. But yeah, I think that this would be a great way to expand and enhance the story within the Filoniverse. I mean, instead of having to create and establish a brand new villain, they could bring in Ezra, someone who is already well within the lore of Star Wars, and who would be an amazing character to learn more about. Not that I'm, against creating new characters. I love the new characters that we've gotten, especially in The Mandalorian. It's just Ezra's future is kind of open-ended, and they're bringing Thrawn back, and Dave Filoni, was part of the team that created Ezra and wrote that great character. And so I just feel like they need to use him somewhere within the Filoniverse. And plus, if they want to get really emotional and messed up, then they could have Ezra die at the very end. Like, Palpatine is done with him and wants to leave his body, but Ezra is trying his best to hold on and keep Palpatine restrained, but he fails. Or, maybe Ezra holds on so tight and he strips Palpatine of some of his power. This would explain why Palpatine wasn't the strongest, at the beginning of The Rise of Skywalker. And this act, Ezra taking Palpatine's power and trying to hold it, would be what kills him eventually. I mean, there is a way that they can make the Filoniverse some of the best Star Wars content ever. I mean, they are bringing people in like Ahsoka, Luke Skywalker, Grand Admiral Thrawn, and now Ezra, possibly. I mean, talk about a grade A cast. And especially with John and Dave at the head of these shows, it is going to be awesome. No matter what direction they take, I put my full faith and trust in these two. The Filoniverse is going to fill the gap between the original and sequel trilogies. And it is going to tell some awesome Star Wars stories and hopefully give us some backstory or some, hidden knowledge and explain why things were the way they were in episodes 7, 8, and 9. And a big character that could play a major part in the Filoniverse could be Ezra Bridger. I mean, not even could, I think that he needs to play a part in it. And he may also be on the dark side of the Force, and instead of the hero, he would be the villain this time. I mean, what's that saying? You either die a hero or live long enough to become the villain. I mean, Ezra could be that. I know that this would be, very sad to see, but it would be an amazing twist and would show that the Filoniverse has the storytelling capability to keep us on our toes. I'm looking forward to it. Whatever they decide to do, Star Wars is in a great place right now, story-wise. Anyway, that's it for today's video. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and like the video. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to join our little community of fans. and stay up to date with all things Star Wars. And to those of you that have subscribed, thank you for your support. I love making videos for you guys, and you make that all possible. And remember to forever be a Star Wars fan.